In now, Republican Congressman Buddy Carter. The Georgia lawmaker is frustrated that it has taken Democrats so long to come to the table after House Republicans passed a bill more than a week ago. Great to have you on the program. Thank you for being with me. First of all, what gets accomplished, in your opinion, at this meeting with the president at the White House later today?
Well, hopefully we can jumpstart the process. I mean, obviously the Democrats have been no-shows. Where have they been? Out in Hawaii or wherever? And the president has wanted to negotiate. He's been at the White House. He's been available. And I think that this is a concerted effort on his part and on the administration's part to get something started.
You know, I do want to ask the question because I try to ask as many Republicans, both Senate and House, this question so we get a full picture. Why didn't this get done before the end of the year and you knew Democrats were going to take over the House?
Well, unfortunately, it didn't get done. However, I would submit that we did our job, particularly in the House with the Republican majority. We sent a bill over to the Senate that included disaster funding, included relief for the disasters, and also included border wall funding. And that would have done it, but it got over to the Senate. Now Chuck Schumer and the Senate Democrats are the ones who are holding it up. So we did our job in the Republican majority in the House.
It sounds like, from what you sent over to the Senate, that there were some yeses in there to Democrats. Why are Democrats then all no?
Well, that's a good question, particularly if you look at the history of this, particularly if you look back to 2006, if you look back just 5 years ago when the Democrats were all over this issue. They were the ones who were funding the wall. They were the ones who were funding security for the border. You know, the number one responsibility of the federal government is to protect our homeland. We have to secure our borders in order to do that. Everyone wants to think that this is just to keep people out, keep illegal immigrants out. Well, what about the drugs that are coming across that border? What about the human trafficking that's happening there, the gang members, and all the other things that are going on there? We have to make sure that our borders are secured. It baffles me that someone doesn't understand that.
Congressman Carter, I want to read from Secretary Nielsen's just talked on the floor, and I call it taking the floor when you cut in on a cabinet meeting video link and you talk as long as she did. She had everybody's attention saying things like, we need a wall to reduce criminal apprehension, drug, narcotic flow, as you're saying too. We need to address poorly written laws. Thousands arrive and exploit loopholes in our laws on a daily basis. Now families and unaccompanied children make up nearly 2/3 of those caught at the border. That is a huge number of children. It's almost Obama-esque. Remember a few summers ago when we had like 90,000 unaccompanied children coming across our border. Speak to some of the issues that Secretary Nielsen is bringing up. Is this a true crisis, and can the president act differently if there's a crisis at our border?
Well, I would submit that it is a true crisis. And, you know, if we secured our borders, if those people who are sending their children up knew that our borders were secure, they weren't going to be able to get in, then they wouldn't take that risk of sending them out with coyotes or with whoever to try to get them into this country. That is a responsibility incumbent upon us. We need to secure our borders so that they don't put these children at risk. And we've seen what's happened. We've had disasters happen, tragedies happen. That is something we need to address as well.
I'm specifically getting to presidential power, because if there is an emergency at the border, there are some things that the president can do that are quite different than waiting for Congress to get its act together. I'll let you answer that, and then I have another quick follow.
And I would submit that the president should do that, and I would think that this president will do that if he deems it to be a crisis, and certainly if the Secretary of Homeland Security advises him on that, then I suspect he'll listen.
You know, I've been watching some conservatives write about this, and I'm curious about the lingo with the president. You've got the president who has a base that was ignited by the idea of a wall, although we all knew, because he would explain it every time, that it was a wall system, that you'd have some places that you couldn't actually put a physical structure. You'd reinforce that with personnel, Border Patrol, ICE, whatever. But does the word wall box you in with Democrats? Should you call it something else? And I know some of them on Twitter are making fun of a SLAT system, but it is what it is. That was one of the companies that submitted, and we knew early on the president liked that SLAT system. Do you call it something else?
Well, I do. I think you're right. I think the semantics are important, and certainly border security. I've been to the border. I've seen it firsthand. As a member of the Homeland Security Committee, my first session up here, I had the opportunity to visit. I've seen the rugged terrain in Arizona. I've seen the winding, shallow river in the Rio Grande in Texas. I've also seen where a wall works. But it's all about border security. It's all about technology, boots on the ground, a combination of different things to secure our borders.
Congressman Betty Carter of the great state of Georgia. I'm a peach. I don't know if you knew that. Thank you for being on the program. Appreciate
Thank you.
it. Let's bring in Bob Cusack.